It is Wednesday, February 25th, 2026. And if you are doing business anywhere in the South Bay or the Los Angeles Harbor area right now, the ground just completely shifted beneath your feet.
Oh, absolutely. It's a totally different landscape today than it was yesterday.
Right. We are looking at a very specific 20-hour window here, basically from yesterday morning to right now. And the rules of the game have effectively changed.
It really is this collision of two completely different worlds. On one side, you have the macro economy, federal trade policies, global logistics, and it is just slamming into the port of Los Angeles.
That's the friction.
Exactly. That's the big friction. But then on the other side, you have this intense micro battle happening right on the streets. Local businesses are fighting to figure out how to even speak to their customers in a world that frankly just got a lot more expensive.
And we have a stack of documents today for this deep dive that paints a pretty chaotic picture of all this. We've got a pulse report on the harbor's economic dynamics, which literally just wrapped up at 8:30 this morning.
Fresh off the press.
Literally. And we also have this incredible breakdown called The South Bay Studio Wars by Edwin Duterte, which it sounds dramatic.
A little bit.
But it actually explains why local marketing is getting so cutthroat right now.
And our mission today is to connect those dots for you. We need to figure out how a massive tariff on imports, a total collapse in soybean exports, and a psychotherapist running a video studio in Redondo Beach are all actually part of the exact same story.
That last part is definitely going to need some explaining later.
Never gets there.
But let's start with the heavy hitters, the Pulse report. So the headline news is the 10% global tariff that officially took effect as of today.
Right.
Now, usually when we see tariffs implemented on the news ticker, we assume everything just grinds to a halt. Prices go up, trade slows down, inspections get tighter. That's the normal expectation, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the textbook definition.
Yeah.
Tariffs usually equal friction. But the Port of Los Angeles is completely defying the textbook right now. Gene Soroka, he's the executive director down there. He was actually on Bloomberg TV explaining this phenomenon. They're calling it a shoot-through.
A shoot-through. Okay, that sounds like a maneuver in a football game.
It kind of is.
Explain the mechanics here, because if I'm an importer, a new tax usually doesn't make me want to move faster.
Well, it's actually a loophole in the panic. You have to look at the specific authority used here, Section 122. For a lot of these importers, the previous levies and duties they were paying were just a complete mess.
How so?
They were tied up in litigation, unsure legal standing, varying rates based on really minute product details. It was unpredictable.
Okay.
But this new flat 10%, for many of them, it's actually a discount compared to the sheer uncertainty they had yesterday.
So it's not necessarily that the tax is low, it's that it's clear.
Exactly. And clarity creates speed. Importers are realizing, hey, I know exactly what this costs, and I can pay it right now. So they are rushing cargo through the gates.
Wow.
We are seeing a velocity on the import side that we just haven't seen in years. It's essentially a clearance sale on certainty.
Okay, so the imports are flying in, but I'm looking at the second half of this report, the outbound lane.
Yeah.
And it looks like a disaster.
It is. It's the export slump, and it is genuinely ugly. We're looking at loaded export containers at a 3-year low.
Jeez.
But the number that really stopped you in your tracks is the soybeans.
Agriculture.
Yeah. Soybean shipments to China have dropped by 80% year over year.
80%? I mean, that isn't a market fluctuation. That's a cessation of trade.
It's a complete collapse.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the massive imbalance of this new economy we woke up to. We're consuming foreign electronics and clothes at record speeds via this shoot-through, but our own goods, our crops, are literally rotting on the docks.
Ships are coming in full and leaving empty.
Exactly. Which creates a massive logistical headache, regardless of where you stand on the politics of the tariffs.
And speaking of headaches, if you tried to drive anywhere near the harbor yesterday, you felt this physically.
Oh, the friction is so real on the ground. As of yesterday, February 24th, the port confirmed that 2 of the older ramps at Harbor Boulevard are closed.
And they aren't opening anytime soon, right? 7 months?
7 months. That's for the SR-47 Interchange Project. So for the rest of 2026, moving goods or just, moving your car around the port is going to be an absolute struggle.
Right.
But, and this is the weird duality of Los Angeles right now, while the roads are closing, the community itself is actually opening up.
You're talking about the bridge.
The Avalon Pedestrian Bridge. Yeah. They are finalizing the groundbreaking tomorrow, February 26th.
Okay.
It's going to connect Wilmington directly to the waterfront promenade. So amidst all this industrial friction and tariff chaos, there's this deliberate push to make the space actually livable for humans.
It feels like a metaphor for the whole region right now. Industrial chaos versus human connection. Which actually brings us to the most confusing part of the data stack for me, the real estate numbers.
The Altus Group Q3 2025 report.
Right. So usually when the economy is acting weird, it's acting weird everywhere. But this report looked at the 10 largest metropolitan statistical areas, the MSAs in the U.S. In 9 of them, commercial real estate prices per square foot are going up.
Business is booming.
Or at least asset values are. But then there's LA.
The massive outlier. Los Angeles is the only major market in that top 10 showing across the board declines in commercial real estate values.
So let me play devil's advocate here for a second. If I am a business owner listening to this in Torrance or San Pedro, isn't that terrifying? My building is worth less on paper, traffic is objectively worse, and the export markets are dying. Why isn't this a pack up and leave moment?
Because you really have to look at why it's down. It's not necessarily that the economy is dead, it's that it's repricing.
Repricing.
The cost of entry is dropping. If you're a scrappy entrepreneur, someone who isn't relying on passive asset appreciation, but is actually trying to build something new, Los Angeles is suddenly on sale.
That is a bold take. You're saying the decay is actually an invitation.
Precisely. High asset prices favor the incumbents, the people who already own everything. Low asset prices favor the challengers.
That makes sense.
And this is the really big, but if you're going to be a challenger in this environment, you can't just unlock your doors and hope people organically find you. The noise level out there is just too high.
Okay, so if the macro environment is essentially hostile but on sale, the only variable you can truly control is how you communicate.
You control your narrative. And this is where we have to pivot to the micro view. If the world is noisy, you have to be louder. Or, at the very least, you have to be clearer.
Which brings us to the South Bay Studio Wars. This piece by Edwin Duterte. I have to admit, I was super skeptical of the title at first. Wars, really?
Yeah.
It sounds a bit like hyperbole.
It does.
But then you read about the actual experience of a local business owner trying to make high-quality video content right now, and it really does feel like a battlefield.
It's a battlefield of incredibly bad options. Duterte's premise is pretty simple. Every business owner knows they need to be on video. That is completely non-negotiable in 2026.
Right.
But when they Google podcast studio near me, they hit this completely broken landscape.
He categorizes these traps, and I want to walk through them because I think anyone listening who has tried to launch a podcast or a YouTube channel for their business will recognize these immediately.
Oh, for sure.
The first one he calls the cold corporate factory.
Right. So think of places like Manhattan Dude Studios.
Yeah.
MBS.
Which is legendary, by the way. I mean, they film actual Marvel movies there. Why is that considered a trap? Wouldn't you want the absolute best equipment?
You want the best for your specific purpose. If you need a stadium-sized green screen and a dedicated security detail, MBS is fantastic. But Duterte argues that for a local CPA or a coffee roaster, that environment is totally industrial. It's intimidating. You're just a number.
You're a number on a giant spreadsheet. You have to go through security checkpoints just to record a 30-second TikTok. It adds all this friction when what you really need is agility.
It's overkill.
Yeah.
You are paying for infrastructure you simply do not need.
Exactly. It's like renting an 18-wheeler to deliver one pizza.
Okay, so that's too big. Then you have the option that's way too small. He calls it the peer-based gamble.
We have all been there. You rent a room by the hour on an app. It looks amazing in the photos, mid-century modern furniture, cool mood lighting.
Great aesthetic.
Right. But then you show up, and it's literally just a living room in Redondo Beach. The host is 10 minutes late because they were walking their dog. The air conditioning rattles like a jet engine, and you can clearly hear the neighbor mowing their lawn through the wall.
It just screams amateur.
And that is the huge risk here. If you are trying to project authority to a potential client or an investor, you cannot be recording in an environment that feels temporary because it signals to them that you are temporary. So Duterte outlines this studio war where a new kind of player is trying to carve out a middle ground. He points to Voxel micro video labs. And he uses a term here I haven't really seen applied to a studio before, the strategic partner.
This is the fascinating shift in the market. Voxel isn't trying to sell you time in a room. They are trying to sell you a business result. And the way they do that is through a very unusual ownership structure.
Yeah, let's talk about this.
It's run by a power couple, a Filipino-American entrepreneur and a licensed psychotherapist.
Okay, I have to stop you. I stopped reading right there when I saw that in the source. A psychotherapist running a video studio. Be honest with me. Is this just a clever marketing gimmick, or is there actual utility there?
I actually think it's the ultimate utility. Think about the biggest barrier to content creation for a professional. It isn't the camera quality. It's not the microphone brand.
It's the fear of looking stupid.
Exactly. It's on-camera anxiety.
Yeah.
Most business owners are incredibly confident in a boardroom, but you point a lens at them and they just freeze up. They get major imposter syndrome. By having a therapist as a co-founder, Voxel is acknowledging that marketing is inherently psychological. They don't just hand you a mic and hit record. They actually coach you through the mental block. They turn the studio into a safe space to be vulnerable, which is ironically exactly how you get that authentic, authoritative content.
That's incredibly interesting. So they are treating the studio not as a hardware rental facility, but as a performance coaching space.
Right. It's a completely different value proposition for the learner trying to navigate this space.
So the article breaks this whole conflict down into 4 rounds of the war. I want to go through these quickly because even if you don't care about Voxel specifically, these comparisons tell you exactly what the market is demanding right now.
Let's do it.
Round 1 is Voxel versus the corporate giants like MBS. We kind of touched on this, the industrial versus agile argument.
The main lesson there for the listener is don't overbuy. You don't need a soundstage. You need business assets. You need to get in, get your clips recorded, and get out. Because if the process is too hard, you'll just stop doing it.
Consistency is everything. Round 2. Voxel versus the co-working add-on. Places like You Need a Club, I see these everywhere now. Co-working spaces that basically threw some acoustic foam on the walls of a broom closet and called it a podcast studio.
The converted closet problem. The critical issue here is noise bleed. Duterte literally calls this gambling. If you bring a high-profile guest, maybe a potential investor or huge client to record an interview, and halfway through you hear the espresso machine grinding out in the hallway, you've lost status.
Yeah.
You look cheap.
Yeah.
Voxel's counter-argument is professional privacy. Zero gambling on noise.
It's about controlling every variable you can. Okay, round 3. This one is really interesting because I think a lot of people still fall into this camp. Voxel versus the audio-only mindset. Places like South Bay Podcast.
This one is controversial. There are absolute purists out there who say, hey, podcast means audio, period.
Right.
Duterte says that's fine if it's a hobby, but if you are a business, you're building a sales funnel. And in 2026, sales funnels are built on vertical video.
Why the sharp distinction, though? Why does video inherently sell better than audio?
It comes down to trust. Audio creates connection, like I feel like I know you because I hear your voice in my ears. But video creates actual trust. I can see your eyes. I can see your subtle mannerisms. In a world right now that is just full of AI text and faceless automated content, showing your real face is the highest form of verification.
Wow, yeah.
If you aren't getting those 15 to 60-second vertical video clips for your social media, you aren't really marketing. You're just broadcasting into the void.
That is a harsh reality check for the audio purists out there.
Yeah.
Finally, we have round 4. Voxel versus the generic creative. These are the places that look amazing on Instagram, you know, the neon signs, the velvet couches, but they kind of lack substance.
He calls them aesthetic studios. They look incredibly cool, but they are cookie cutter. They lack what he calls cultural nuance.
What does cultural nuance actually mean in a local business context? Because that sounds a bit like buzzword soup.
It sounds like it, but think about the actual geography we're talking about. The South Bay isn't just one monolithic vibe.
No, definitely not.
San Pedro is gritty and industrial. It's the port. Palos Verdes is luxury and cliffs. Torrance is pure corporate hustle. A generic studio tries to make everyone look like a trendy influencer. A strategic studio helps you look like you. It brings us back to that phrase he uses, the home team advantage.
That phrase came up a few times in the text, home team advantage.
It's the synthesis of everything we've talked about today. Look at the macro picture again. Global trade, completely volatile, tariffs changing overnight, national real estate, confusing and dropping in LA. When the big picture is that unstable, you absolutely cannot treat your local partners as just transactions. You need allies.
You need neighbors.
Exactly. You need neighbors who are personally invested in your win. You need a studio that actually knows who you are and what your market is. Or a logistics partner who understands that the Avalon Bridge is opening tomorrow and knows how to route your trucks around the Harbor Boulevard traffic. You have to circle the wagons.
So if we zoom all the way out here, we started with a federal tariff that makes imports shoot through faster but absolutely kills our local exports. We saw a Los Angeles real estate market that is failing on paper but might actually be an opportunity in disguise. And we ended with a psychotherapist helping local business owners get over their stage fright so they can actually compete.
It's a lot to process for a 20-hour window, but it paints a very clear picture of a region in deep transition.
It really does. But I think there is a silver lining here for you if you're listening. You mentioned earlier that Los Angeles commercial real estate is the only major market in the country that is dropping. Most people see that as a massive red flag, a sign to get out while you can.
I see it totally differently. And I really want to leave you with this question to chew on. Is it decay or is it a reset?
A reset for who exactly?
For the people listening to this deep dive. If Los Angeles commercial real estate is getting cheaper while the rest of the country gets more expensive, if you are the one willing to navigate the port traffic, and you're willing to brave the camera in a place like Voxel, and you're willing to bet on yourself, a cheaper, slightly chaotic Los Angeles might actually be the greatest buying opportunity of your lifetime.
That's powerful.
While all the big institutional money is scared and leaving town, the scrappy locals suddenly have the run of the place.
Chaos is a ladder, as they say.
Only if you know how to climb it. And only if you have the right strategic partners holding the ladder for you.
That is exactly where we will leave it for this deep dive. Good luck out there navigating the noise, the tariffs, and the traffic. Go find your strategic partners instead of just looking for a transaction, and we'll see you next time.